I think it's really to continue building out our provider side software, getting more providers onto this and helping to bring their patients onto the platform through that channel as well. And then for pharmacy side, same thing really. Like we want this to be a better way for them to advertise to providers and also for them to run and operate their business within the software. And so expanding the total number of pharmacies that we're working with. And then this is a partnership. So like we offer resources for all partner pharmacies to get like branding guides and help to brand themselves and help redo their like websites and such, and also like redo packaging, and they should be growing their business alongside us.
What's up, everyone? Welcome back to Compound Wisdom. I'm your host, Steve Sood, and today I'm actually joined by Dr. Myra Ahmed, founder and CEO of Mochi Health, one of the biggest brands in the telehealth space right now, and one of the OGs as well. Myra actually spent years in medicine studying one question: where exactly do patients fall out of care, and how do you bring them back? 4 years ago, she actually took that research and built Mochi Health, not as another telehealth company pushing prescriptions, but really as a full marketplace with its own pharmacy management system, its own EMR, and over 500 providers on the platform as well. In this episode, we're actually going to talk about why most of healthcare is designed around the system and not the patient. How Mochi is using a marketplace model to put providers and pharmacies on the same platform, where GLPs are really headed as a 20 plus new drugs hit clinical trials, and why Myra believes AI should power the back office, but never replace the human sitting across from you. Awesome. Dr. Myra, welcome to Compound Wisdom. Thank you for being a guest. Now, one of my favorite, yeah, absolutely. Now, one of my favorite questions to start off with is describe how you got into healthcare and really, how you started Mochi Health, one of the OGs in the space.
Yeah. My background was in medicine. I started Mochi really to solve like care delivery gaps, and I think that has been a lot of the focus of what we've been doing so far, is like helping patients find a provider that they like and stick with that provider long term.
Yeah, and of course, I know one of the things we had uncovered last time we spoke is you went to University of Washington. Talk about schooling and how you got to Mochi and some of the first difficulties. I guess maybe you can talk about that you had with Mochi and really hitting a gold mine with the GLP rush.
Yeah. I think, GLPs at the time were like entirely unheard of. Nobody really thought everybody would take injection medication. And I think it has been entirely like upending to big pharma that there is so much consumer interest in proactive healthcare, and also just like for everybody who was, for just all of the interest in GLPs.
Yeah, it's been a gold rush to say the least as well, right?
Yeah.
That's awesome. Now, one of the things I want you to touch on is obviously Mochi, one of the originals in the space. What is it that you guys do different from like a Hims or even, a Roe and some of the other companies as well?
Yeah. Okay, a lot of what we do is much more about being a marketplace and software player than it is about like branding and like vertical integration, which I think is like the big difference between like us and Hims and Row and such. So we have a marketplace of providers where patients onboard, and then these are your direct primary care providers that can do like really comprehensive management. They can do really anything in the realm of primary care. They can prescribe anything of like 2,000 plus medications. They can do labs. They can do genetic testing. They can do like lots of other types of screenings as well. On the pharmacy side, we basically give you the choice to like shop and browse from different pharmacies and compare pricing and give this to you in a way that is very transparent, which I think is very different from most other healthcare platforms.
That is amazing. So is it the same doctors that they see every single time?
Yeah. You can choose. So basically our goal is that we give you access to lots of different providers and their bios and their descriptions, and you can pick and choose what provider is going to be a good fit for you. But when you find a good fit, that should be your continuity care provider, right? Like gold standard for primary care is really that you stick with the same provider as a primary care provider for like 6 or 7 years.
Yeah.
And that's kind of the target that we're trying to get to.
And just have them stick to the same. That's amazing.
Yeah.
Do you guys offer like specialties as well with specific doctors, or is it more of just primary care?
Yeah, some of our providers are subspecialists, but the vast majority are really focusing this practice on direct primary care. So everything that you would get from a primary care practitioner, like you can get through Mochi.
That's awesome. Nice. Okay. Now let's talk about GLPs. Let's talk about the transition of when they first started. I want you to talk about that and how much of an impact that made, especially with Mochi, and where you see it going, with some of the newer ones coming out as well.
I was initially a non-GLP believer because I didn't think people would take injectables, and I thought that like the orals...
The no needle crowd?
Yeah, well, I just like didn't. I don't know if anybody really expected this many people to be interested in injections. I think that GLPs have been like this is kind of the first in class wave that we've seen. This is the big blockbuster, but I think there's a lot more to come for patients that have different medical conditions, right? There's like a first in class, best in class dynamic with all of these drugs, and like later versions I think we'll see will be better for maintenance or better for people who have higher classes of obesity or better for people who have like heart failure or other conditions basically.
Do you see it going into, obviously it's being tested for like, addiction control and all these different things? Do
Yeah,
you think it's going to make a massive impact there too?
I think so. I think it already is like being prescribed really heavily off label for all of those things. And I think
Yeah.
that the FDA approval for it will just make it more of a common treatment.
Awesome. And what, even Reddit coming out and some of the new ones, what are your thoughts around that?
Okay, I think Retta in particular is a great option. I think it is just needs to finish like phase 3 clinical trials and get approved
Yeah.
before we really know like what is the right dose and how does it compare to the other medications and like head-to-head studies. For orforglipron and the oral semaglutide, I am like not a huge believer in them just because I think
Really?
like the efficacy is like
Yeah.
it's just like not that effective.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think there's always going to be like a no needles crowd. I hope, that's a good question for you. How far away do you think we are from the efficacy being good? At least not even, comparable to injectables, but good
Yeah.
enough where, people will start really, really kind of going that way.
Several years.
Several?
Yeah, I think both of them are pretty terrible right now, and I
Yeah.
think like oral sema you have to take even at max dose, it's just not that effective, and you have to take it every day, 30
Yeah.
minutes before like eating anything with water. Like that's just too many steps.
Too much work. Yeah. It's the
Yeah,
consistency is just not there. Yeah. No, that makes sense.
yeah,
Now,
and then like orforglipron, it didn't get approved at the max dose that they ran in trials, and so like it's just not going to be that effective.
yeah, that makes sense. One of the hottest, topics right now, especially in this space, is the RFK stuff and some of the category 2 peptides coming about.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on that? When do you think that's actually gonna happen? Because I know it's been in talks since January or maybe even longer. Mochi, what are you guys kind of preparing to do with that, and what are your plans with it?
I think there's a ton of potential in peptides. I
Yeah,
think, unlike GLPs, it is really like 20 plus different medications that they're looking at taking off of this category 2 list. And
yeah,
so I would expect that there's like really different uptake of different ones of these medications based on how well they work for people. I think it's pretty exciting. I think that there's a huge group of people that have discovered that injectable medication is not that scary, are kind of open to taking peptides post GLPs.
Is there any specific ones that are a fan of, or what are you most excited to launch, I guess, through Mochi?
That's a good question. I'm not sure if I have like a favorite. I feel like BPC is popular amongst like younger people with like muscle injury type things.
Yeah,
The melanotan and like bremelanotide and stuff, I think are really popular for people who are like trying to avoid tanning.
yeah,
Um,
yeah. That's a funny one. I wonder if that one is actually. I know that's been on the fence of if it is or if it isn't going to get recategorized, but obviously BPC is going to be huge. Are you guys going to do a massive push with BPC?
I think we're looking at all of the peptides and kind of like looking at our providers to see which they're interested in and what are kind of their prescribing practices in and outside of Mochi.
Okay. That's awesome. Yeah, no, that makes sense. Now, one of the hottest topics that I wanted to really chat with you about is, especially being from San Fran and a tech hub, is AI. You know,
Yeah.
we've talked about it right before. It's the buzziest thing that's out there, good and bad. We just talked about obviously Oracle laying off 30,000 people.
Yeah.
What kind of impact, what's your opinion on AI, number one? And then what kind of impact do you think it's going to make in healthcare? And what are you guys doing?
Um, okay, I think of AI for all of our products as something that is like great for everything back office
Mhm.
and terrible for anything directly interacting with patients, right? Like
Really?
I think like our patients still just want to talk to a person at some point, right? And getting that doctor and that human connection, I think is still critical because that's like a person that is really advising you and that's somebody who you trust. Everything that makes the provider more efficient and effective and focus their time on that care is key. And anything that can get rid of like operations logistics type problems like shipping and helping you get information to like when is your next visit and follow-ups, like also honestly like a lot of medical assistant stuff, right? Like
Yeah.
documentation needs and whatever, like I think that stuff it's really good for. So
You think there's still a fine line of between all that stuff and then actual medical care? Do you see it in a place, and if when do you think it will be in a place where it can do a lot of that, the medical care side?
It depends on the person. I think for some people, when they are using AI, they're like, okay, I'm okay with using it to learn about these medications or get me more prescribing information.
Yeah.
And I mean, like we live here and everybody in the office is still like they use AI every day for all kinds of parts of their job. And at the end of the day, when like something is wrong, they're still like, I still want to talk to a doctor. Like
Yeah.
it's
And one
not,
of
I think one, it's a little too easy to be dissuaded or go in a wrong direction with AI and you just like don't know
yeah.
because you can't like validate the other side. And I think there's also just like some human trust in this.
Yeah, yeah. No, that makes sense. What kind of AI are you using in your personal life?
Ooh, let's see. I have an agent that helps write email drafts and like templates them for me that's like in my voice. We made one that was really funny that was just like in the office, like stream of thought Slack. Like we fed in a bunch of Slack messages and it came
Oh,
up with like Slack, like what somebody would say if you said something to it.
oh,
Um,
like in different
yeah,
little tones and stuff? That's
yeah.
hilarious. I love that.
What else did we make? There's a bunch that we have that are like Chrome extensions to help like automate different tasks, like scraping your calendar and summarizing meeting notes and like all of those things. Yeah,
Nice.
making slides, like yeah.
What kind of AI products do you guys have on your roadmap if you're willing to share?
I think we break this down by like whether it's for the pharmacy side provider or the patient experience. A lot of the provider side we've been really focusing on. So we have like an in-house transcriber that we have for providers that basically like helps them write after visit summaries and helps them take all of their notes for them and like it makes their workflow a lot more efficient. We have AI templates for drafting their messages to patients and follow-ups and reminders. And then a lot of what we're working on is like helping to flag potential patients who are at risk of something. So like side effect type flagging for providers and then kind of like more proactive outreach for patients. There's AI for like all of the credentialing applications and for payer contracting and billing and like logistical scheduling things and whatnot. So yeah, that's kind of the meat of this next quarter is focusing on provider experience for AI.
For AI. Nice. That's the
Yeah.
same for us as well. Are you guys doing anything around like the intake process with AI?
A little bit. So we pull medical records, and then I think that some of the work that we've been doing is basically helping to summarize those so that providers have like a better a better grasp of like what is like all of this patient's medical history before they start a visit.
Nice. And all of your guys' providers are all in-house, correct? For
So
Mochi?
our providers are they are all independent practitioners where this is basically like they're operating independently on the platform.
Okay, and they have like their
Yeah.
own clients and everything like that, patients and stuff.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So you're basically like providing them a business in a sense through Mochi and, a continuity of care for all of their patients.
Yeah, it should be like I think when a provider is starting to make a business, they're looking at like EMR systems and they can go the absolute most difficult route, which is like make a physical practice and hire a staff and like get an
Yeah.
EMR and like find patients and do everything.
Yeah.
And that requires like a very different type of entrepreneurial provider to do that. And I think that like there's other EMR systems that do pieces of this and you're paying for like a SaaS product. Ours makes it so that you basically do nothing but bring in your patients and
Yeah.
we will do like all back office scheduling. You take like we will help you with all of the notes and everything like on ramp is free and it makes it much easier to get started.
That's amazing. Wow. I love what you guys are doing. It's very different than all the people that I talk to in the space. So that's awesome.
Yeah.
Now, let's talk about the Wild Wild West, which is research peptides and even some of these pharmacies that I consider to be cowboys. I'm sure you've heard that term a lot.
Yeah.
Let's talk about research. What are your opinions on research peptides and, obviously the recategorization as we talked about earlier? Where do you think that space is going? And then let's talk about pharmacies after.
Research peptides. Uh it's like a little crazy to me how many people are ordering mystery drugs on the internet and then like injecting themselves. Like I feel like we heard about this in like opiate era and
Yeah.
then just like did it again. Yeah, I'm like always kind of surprised at the numbers I see from like peptide sciences and whatnot, but like how much demand there is for something that has just like absolutely no oversight and is like entirely trust based.
Yeah.
I think we'll see a lot more investing into testing resources because I feel like honestly, like the testing infrastructure has really been falling behind to make sure that there is enough testing, not only for all of the compounded products, but also for like consumers that want to just test whatever research use stuff they're getting.
Do you think that market's going to be shut down? I mean, peptide sciences, they shut down. Some of the bigger ones are starting to, and with the reclassification of really like a majority of those products, right? Do you think it will be
Yeah.
shown?
I think in anything you can't operate an illegal business at scale.
Yeah.
Like fundamentally, like like they when they get to an inflection point, somebody notices and eventually is like, okay, we're gonna stop like payment processing and whatever.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
it's very hard to kill all of them, and if there's enough interest, there's always like small players. So
Yeah, and then it's like, one goes down, 50 more spread out. So I think the processing point will be the thing to kill it. That's coming from a processor myself. That's, what we do. It is
yeah,
getting more difficult for them to kind of spread out, but it's still there. It's wild to me.
yeah.
Yeah. Now, pharmacies, obviously, you guys, I'm sure, do you guys have your own pharmacy or you guys typically work? Okay. Not
No.
yet, right?
In the same way that we make provider software, we make pharmacy software. So pharmacies can onboard onto the platform and then use our end-to-end software for free and use it to basically run their practice.
That's amazing. So you guys are partnered with all sorts of different pharmacies. What is some of your vetting process? I know there's a lot of Wild West pharmacies as I mentioned earlier. What's some of the things that you guys do to really vet some of those pharmacies as well?
A lot. I think we're trying to build a relationship with these pharmacies, right? Like
Yeah.
when we onboard a pharmacy, it's going to be shown to all of our providers and all of our patients, and they're going to have access to effectively be advertising to this huge network.
Yeah.
And so we want to make sure that they're a good partner before we do that. So, I mean, there's a whole bunch of steps in the onboarding flow that are like collecting license information, collecting a lot of documentation. We do onboarding testing for all of our pharmacies, which basically means that they're required to send samples of like a whole bunch of different doses to a laboratory. And then we basically get the testing data back to say like if they meet endotoxin potency, sterility and stuff, and that it is up to spec. So, yeah. And then we have a pharmacist on staff that like is basically doing pharmacy inspections as well and helps them with like an ABP accreditation and like
Yeah.
PCA and whatnot.
Nice. Okay. It's something that I know on our side we definitely need to button up a lot more. So that's why I was asking some of those questions. That's awesome. That's really,
Yeah.
really good that you guys are doing that. Wonderful. Now, one of the last few things I want to talk about is HRT and women's health. Obviously there was a recent black box removal. Thoughts on that? And what are some of the things you guys are doing with HRT, especially for women?
Yeah. Um, I mean, it's great for access. That black box warning was like a crazy legacy thing.
Yeah.
It's great that like medical community is kind of picking this back up and deciding that hormone replacement therapy is effective for women. We have a lot of crossover in the demographic of patients that are interested in the Mochi platform, that is also interested in like HRT and perimenopausal type treatments. Yeah, I think it's great.
Have you guys already launched into that world yet, or are you just about to? Or
Yeah.
yeah.
Our platform lets pharmacies upload like their entire formulary. And
Uh-huh.
so a lot of our pharmacies have been adding on like tons and tons of different medications. So all types of different like estrogen creams and patches and whatnot.
Nice. And you guys have labs built in and all of that fun stuff too.
Yeah. Yeah.
Very exciting. Has it been very complex, especially when you're dealing with women's HRT? I feel like it is a very complex flow. Have you guys noticed some of that, or do you have all of that kind of ironed out?
I think a lot of that is ironed out by the fact that our providers are interacting with these patients very often and that it's kind of the same provider that they're seeing throughout. There is like obviously some calibration with all of these medications, but I think that for most of our providers, like they have been using this platform for other medications for a while anyways. So,
Okay, nice. Now, telehealth obviously is blowing up, as you know, clearly, right?
yeah.
Where do you see it going in the next few years, especially from like traditional medicine, where people, obviously in the back in the day, they'll go, being a doctor yourself, would go in and see their doctor. Now you have access to telehealth. Like, where do you see it going in the next 3 to 5 years?
That's a great question. I think that traditional medicine provides no transparency into pricing for anything. Like you basically show up at a doctor's office and assume your provider's in network, and then you get a random $250 bill. And then you show up at the pharmacy and you think that the medication is on your plan, and then you like also get a random several $100 bill. And I
Yeah.
think that lack of transparency has meant that there is a lot of there's a lot of drivers to basically push patients towards things that have more transparent pricing in general, which is like honestly most telemedicine.
Yeah, 100%. You actually mentioned obviously the insurance word. Are you guys doing anything with insurance, or do you have any plans to?
We do. We take most insurances in most states for all the big payers. It's different in that like patients can basically use it to pick a different plan. It's called Wellness Plus, but it is much cheaper for patients who are in network on the plan.
Nice. Okay. And you use it to cover labs and all the sorts of different things too.
So we run the labs through Quest or LabCorp, so it depends on like we just send it to whatever was in our ARC.
Nice. Okay. Cool. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Now, one of my last few questions. What is next for Mochi? What do you guys have planned? Very high level view. Get the listeners excited.
Yeah. I think it's really to continue building out our provider side software, getting more providers onto this and helping to bring their patients onto the platform through that channel as well. And then for pharmacy side, same thing really. Like we want this to be a better way for them to advertise to providers and also for them to run and operate their business within the software. And so expanding the total number of pharmacies that we're working with. And then this is a partnership. So like we offer resources for all partner pharmacies to get like branding guides and help to brand themselves and help redo their like websites and such, and also like redo packaging, and they should be growing their business alongside us.
Do you have any plans on actually like going and acquiring a pharmacy or acquiring different companies or?
Pharmacy, no. I think we're also looking at a lot of partnerships for like other device integrations and stuff.
Yeah.
Because I think there's just consumer interest in like other wearables and whatnot. But it's still on the roadmap.
For the devices?
Yeah.
Yeah, we have a lot that hit us up all the time. Are you guys partnered with any so far?
No, none yet. We're looking at a whole bunch of different devices. I think it's a little bit of it's a difficult space to navigate because you are kind of endorsing this product.
Yeah. And you don't know what works and what's BS and what's not, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
I guess from a medical standpoint, like, have you seen anything that's piqued your interest from a device?
CGMs, I think, are great.
Yeah.
A lot of the fitness wearables are great, like Fitbits and Apple Watches and whatever. Is like I feel like people, if they will wear them more often, they're able to get more data from it.
That one right here. Or a ring. Yeah.
So many people have those, honestly, like the entire office. Yeah, I think whatever works is what you'll use.
Yeah. Are you like tracking any of the metrics and stuff for yourself or?
I have an Apple Watch. I almost never wear it. I'm testing a bunch of different CGMs. Like we'll see what happens.
Nice. Okay. Cool.
Yeah.
Well, awesome. This was really great. Myra, what you guys are doing, obviously being one of the OGs in the space, I applaud you guys and, keep it up. You guys are amazing. Thank you for.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
Cool. Awesome. Thank you.